The death of Nelson Mandela at the age of 95 on Thursday has touched millions of people around the world who either knew him or were inspired by him in one way or another. President Obama was one of those, and he reflected on Mandela's life Thursday evening at the White House.
We will not likely see the likes of Nelson Mandela again. So it falls to us, as best we can, to forward the example that he set, to make decisions guided not by hate but by love, to never discount the difference that one person can make, to strive for a future that is worthy of his sacrifice.
It's been said that there are no South Africans ambivalent about Nelson Mandela, and that certainly seems to be the case in the early hours since the announcement of his death. One of those that's been writing about it, her name is Magogodi Makhene, who joins us from New York. She reflected on Mandela's life and her chance meeting with him many years ago for our friends at Salon.com. Magogodi, thanks so much for joining us today. I was struggling overnight to sort of come up with an apt comparison of what Mandela means to South Africa and a way you might be able to compare it to others around the world. Of all people, the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid, in his statement reflecting on Mandela, said that Mandela was both the George Washington and Abraham Lincoln of his country. Is that a proper comparison?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I can't think of a better way to explain to Americans what Mandela represents to us, except to echo those words. He's very much both a George Washington and an Abraham Lincoln in one. I would add to that in addition, he has an extremely personal connection with just about every South African I know. I mean, I'll give you an example. Receiving the news from my mother last night, immediately as it happened, she described it as if it was the death of somebody very close in our family. I was very worried, thinking something maybe had happened to one of my sisters or somebody in my very immediate family. And that's really how we hold, and we, that's our relationship with him. It's very personal. He's our personal grandfather, every one of us.
It's a good way to put it. You wrote about the time that you got to meet him as a young child. Take us through that experience.
It was extremely moving. I was very young. This is back in 1990, and Nelson Mandela was just very freshly out of prison. And my father drove me and my sisters to his home in Orlando. We live in Soweto ourselves. We were living in Pimville, and he didn't describe in detail where we were going or anything. And I remember from that time in our lives that there was a lot of excitement in the air, that as a child, I didn't necessarily understand all of the activity and what the excitement was about, but there was something palpable going on. And when we arrived at his house, I didn't know who this man was or why it was important for us to meet him. But I do remember this larger-than-life figure coming out from his home to greet us specifically, and especially he made time to shake every single person's hand. We were all leaning in over the fence that overlooks his home. It's been redesigned so it doesn't look like this anymore, but we're all standing on our parents' shoulders, or the taller kids are on tiptoes. Everybody is careening to get a look into his garden. He's in there with his private family having a private moment, and he makes time in that particular moment, fresh out of prison, to come and greet everybody, and especially with the children. I think it's well documented Nelson Mandela loved children especially. He made time to shake everybody's hand. We were singing ANC struggle songs. He was singing along with us. And even if, I was a child and I didn't fully understand what this moment was, I understood it was really powerful. And I also really understood that there was something magnetic I wanted to be a part of, that this man had inside of him.
We've seen images of him meeting with people like, the Spice Girls or Beyonce, world leaders. There's some criticism that perhaps he spent too much time meeting with celebrity when they would come to South Africa. But as a sort of civilian, as a rank and file South African yourself, to be able to say you shook his hand, you saw him in person, what kind of currency did that give you with your friends and neighbors growing up when you could say, if he ever came up, well, you know, I got to meet him. Maybe you
Yeah,
didn't.
I actually remember on that particular day. So, like I said, this was in Soweto, and all my family's in Soweto. So immediately afterwards, we got in the car and we went to my grandmother's house, who lives in Diepkloof. And of course, my grandmother, who is of the same generation as Nelson Mandela, and all my aunts and uncles who are older than me, understood the gravity of what had just happened and what it was to have shaken his hand. And everybody wanted to shake my hand, my sister's hands that had shaken Nelson Mandela's hands. And, even if you didn't understand as a very young child who this man was and what he had been through in the past 27 plus years, you understood that something extremely special, unique, and life transforming had happened for my grandmother, who wasn't a very emotional person, to have that kind of reaction. It immediately impressed me.
In our remaining moments with Magogodi Makhene, who's written about this experience for Salon.com, give us a sense, anytime you lose a relative or a friend, you start thinking about what's next. What do you think is next for South Africa now that he's gone?
I'm extremely optimistic. I think one of Mandela's biggest enduring legacies is the work that he has created in the country. We have a strong democracy. It's very young, and it will be tested in the coming months and years as every other democracy. But I think that the biggest gift that we can give to Nelson Mandela as South Africans is working towards the vision and the dream that he started. I can't think of any other way to honor who he was and the outsizeness of humanity that he embodied in his life than to make sure that South Africa truly is a rainbow nation.
Well, Magogodi Makhene, who wrote about this for Salon.com, her article's entitled When I Met Mandela. We thank you for writing that. Most importantly, we thank you for spending a few minutes sharing your personal reflections with us today. Thanks for being with us.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.